I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States
States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for
and
which it stands,
one nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
with
liberty and
liberty and
justice for
justice.
all. Thank you. Have a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Madam Clerk, can you hear us?
Sorry about that. It didn't unmute. Excuse me. Councilmember Matthey.
Here.
Councilmember Bolin.
Here.
Councilmember Milawandwe.
Here.
Councilmember Emig.
Present.
Councilmember Painter.
Here.
Councilmember Carrillo. Councilmember Black.
Here.
Councilmember Crable.
Here.
Councilmember Bray.
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Thank you very much. We're going to turn immediately to a COVID-19 update by our wonderful city manager, Mr. Gleason. Tim, come on down.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Wanted to provide a COVID update on 3 items. Chief Scott reports that there were no compliance issues over the past couple of weekends. Bloomington Police Department continues to do increased checks in the downtown area. That's one. Number 2, State Farm. You talk about a company that really takes care of their community. We just received or are in the process of receiving 5,000 masks to the city of Bloomington. They reached out a couple of weeks ago, coordinated the efforts, and this is very much appreciated. And typical of the company, they didn't want too much recognition, but they're allowing me to share this in this setting. So I appreciate that. Next, the CDBG money. We have received about $450,000 originally. Council set $150,000 to a small business grant program, up to $4,500 for each grant. And then the remaining money was for the community. An update on the numbers. We have on the small business application side, we have 50 applications, 32 appear to be qualified, and we have nearly $141,000 of that 150 that's been allocated. Of the other portion, to date, we have 17,000 that's gone out, but that does not include several allocations that we've got for the community side of the CDBG funding. Also of note is how many households have been helped by providers, municipality, churches, and this does not include Bloomington Township or MCCA. I don't have those numbers, but we'll provide that at Committee of the Whole next week. But it looks like we have helped nearly in this community. Nearly 1,600 households have been helped, and to the tune of nearly $1 million, $987,872 to be exact. And this is something that I will follow up on what Bloomington Township has done, and also MCCA. Final comment regarding the small business grant program. We have additional CDBG funds. This ultimately will go in front of council, but see an opportunity to possibly expand that and allow for some of the expenses to be permissible, such as outdoor dining in the fall or early winter. There's some discussion of buying tents some of the heating systems that would be allowed. That's quite costly, and we've got opportunities. So that's just one of many possibilities that will come back in front of council. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, excuse me. I'm not sure why I got muted, but I'm just saying thank you very much, Tim, and thanks for all your work and hard work and diligence in making sure that our downtown is thriving, a center of our core that it can possibly be. At this point, we're going to move to recognitions and appointments. We have presentation of the City of Bloomington Police Department's police officers, the commission certificate to officers Linden and Howlett upon a completion of an 18-month probation period. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gleason. Do you want to add something or just turn it over to the chief?
Straight to the chief, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Chief?
Mayor and council, first of all, let me apologize. My internet connection here seems to be a little jumpy. It's my pleasure to introduce Officer Howlett. Prior to the Bloomington, coming to the Bloomington Police Department desk technician and also as a security officer at St. Joseph Medical Center, Bloomington Normal, and attended Normal Community West High School. After high school, he joined the United States Army Reserve as a military police officer. Taylor served 8 years, including a deployment to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. After his deployment, Taylor completed his bachelor's degree at Illinois State University in cybersecurity. When off duty, Taylor enjoys exercise, biking, and playing the drums. Officer Linden was hired in April of 2019. Jeff worked at Thermo Fisher Scientific as an account manager. Jeff attended Lombard North High School in Carroll Stream, Illinois. He graduated from Illinois State University with a Bachelor of Science. In Texas, he received a master's in advertising. When he's off duty, he likes to golf, go motorcycling, and what we all like to do, vacation. Mayor and council, I'm pleased to present them to you for commissioning tonight.
Thank you very much. Chief Scott, anything else you want to add? Do we want to give them a couple of minutes to
No, sir.
address
They
the
are
council?
present on the.
Chief, I can't quite hear
I'm
you.
sorry, sir, I lost you there.
Yeah, we kind of lost you, I think. Do we want to, I mean, at this point, give maybe the floor to Officers Linden and Howlett to say whatever they'd like about their careers, and to the council, please. You'd have to unmute yourselves. Officer Linden, Officer Howlett. Oh, Linden.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
You're unmuted. Go ahead. Thanks, officer.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council and Chief Scott. Just want to say, appreciate the hard work of the FTO officers who trained me, Officer McGonigal, Officer Carlton, now Sergeant Carlton, Officer Freeman. Without them and the others, Bloomington Police Department, I wouldn't have gotten to this stage. So I appreciate the opportunity to learn with them, and I've been on my own now since the beginning of the year, and I have a lot of great coworkers here at Bloomington Police Department. So thank you.
Thank you, officer, and thank you for all you're doing and will do for us in our community. Officer Howlett.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and Chief Scott. This time has been awesome. I'd like to also thank my FT officers, Officer Chambers, who's now K9, Lanphier, and Elston. They've all been a great help, and I've had such a wonderful time here and learned so much, and can see this as being a long-time career. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, officer. Appreciate, again, all your help and work. We know this is a difficult time, so thank you. And we appreciate everything. Bravo. We're going to move on to item 6B, and that's recognition of appointments and reappointments of various commissions. Madam Clerk, are there any names that you want to read to us or recognize? Leslie?
Sorry, I was just trying to get them pulled up. We have Becky Altick with the Citizens Beautification Committee, Willie Holton Halbert, John M. Scott Healthcare Commission, and the reappointment of Robert Fazzini with the Public Building Commission.
Cool. Thank you very much. And we want to thank all of them for their willingness to serve and give their ideas, perspective, expertise to the community, to the citizens of Bloomington, and their recommendations. So thank you all, and thank you for your willingness to serve for absolutely nothing. We're quite appreciative of that. Next, we move on to public comment. Madam Clerk, other than those that have been received in email, are there others waiting to speak to us?
There are. We have two present in the fishbowl today, Serena Fish and Katherine Hoy. And then I have, see, 6 others that are on via Zoom.
Okay, go ahead.
We could begin with Serena Fish.
Serena? Serena?
Here I
Hello?
am.
Oh, okay.
I want to do a positive thing for a change. Things have been so dark lately. I'd like to give credit to numerous city employees who are doing their job and helping the community. Kevin, who's head of Public Works, who's helping me and a West Side neighbor possibly change a street thing. We want to change to a 2-way instead of a 1-way. I want to Community Development Inspector Tony Brown. This is the second time we have a derelict property that we're not really quite sure what's going on with it. This is the second time, though, that the city has come out and mowed and chased the critters away. So we appreciating him helping and the city keeping our street looking good, at least that the lawns are mowed. Also, I want to thank Mr. Jim Mack, along with Tim Gleason, Jay, and Leslie, for resolving a problem at the arena for election judges. And these are people that are trying to serve our community, and they resolved a problem, and we're all very, very happy. And thank you very much. So just a few things that when you need your city people to do something, if you follow the lines and you go to the right email and you go to things, it's amazing what you can get done in the city of Bloomington. Last but not least, I am an election judge. I'm asking you all to vote, whether you vote in person, you vote by mail, you do an absentee vote. It is important to vote, especially this election. Our early voting is going really well in person. So please vote. If you don't, then don't complain. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
And next up, we have Katherine Hoy.
Hi, my name is Katherine Hoy. I am here to urge the Bloomington City Council to adopt the Welcoming Cities Ordinance that dozens of people from our community and many organizations came together to create 3 years ago. The need is more vital now than ever as we see ICE agents and detention centers in the United States resorting to genocidal practices against immigrants and asylum seekers once again. Government is most effective on the local level, and each of the city council members has the ability to make the people they serve safer and to protect the people that make our community so wonderful, regardless of immigration status. Not only must we pass a Welcoming Cities Ordinance, we must also replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day officially. This matter should need no study or lengthy discussion. The facts and history are clear that Columbus is not a hero, though he may be the father of genocide in America, a legacy that has not died in more than 500 years. Take up a vote and pass the Welcoming Cities Ordinance and replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day, and prove that you stand in support of the most vulnerable and at-risk members of our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
All right, up next, we have Ed Neves, and he is available online.
Ed, you there? Hello? Ed, can you hear us?
He's showing mute.
He looks like he's muted.
Okay.
Ed,
Can you hear me now?
unmute yourself? Ed?
Yes, I just did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Thanks, Ed. Go ahead.
Thank you. Have to be smarter than the phone, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council and city staff. My name is Ed Neves. In the past few weeks, I just completed my term as president of Illinois Realtors, and I am past president of the Bloomington Normal Home Builders Association and past president of the Bloomington Normal Realtors Association. So thank you again for letting me have this opportunity. Realtors and home builders support safer homes. We believe that there's a way to build safe homes while respecting a homeowner's right to choose what features they want in their home. To that end, we've had the opportunity to work with city staff over the past year, and we are very pleased to learn that the recommendations tonight by staff and the Building Board of Appeals regarding the 2018 International Residential Code is to maintain the current status quo regarding residential fire sprinklers in new construction. Maintaining the status quo means that for one or two family dwellings, installations of the fire sprinklers will remain optional. We supported this position when the city adopted the current 2012 version of the IRC, and we reaffirm our support for the optional fire sprinkler system in the 2018 IRC that you're starting to adopt tonight. All the communities that surround Bloomington also provide for optional sprinkler installation. They followed your lead, which included the optional language in the current version of the code. We commend the city of Bloomington for adopting the mandatory offer language that's in the current version. And with the mandatory offer, builders are required to offer the option of a sprinkler installation to the homeowners. And the decision remains in the hands of the property owner, who decides what is best for their individual situation. As president of Illinois Realtors, I attended many state and national meetings, and everywhere the predominant discussion is in favor of preserving consumer choice when it comes to sprinklers. Sprinklers can increase the cost of a home by $10,000 or more, depending on the size. Assessments might climb, inspection fees go up, and the maintenance costs increase over time with these systems. Illinois already gets tagged as a difficult place in which to work and live. Adding more cost and regulations really doesn't make any sense. The National Association of Realtors estimates that one job is created for each 2 home sales of pre-existing homes. With that ratio, obviously 100 home sales generate 500 jobs. And the economic impact of each home contributes about $60,000 to the economy. For new construction, homes add 2 full-time jobs to the economy. Each new home employs approximately 100 laborers, contractors, suppliers, and tradespeople during the construction. Each new home adds approximately $82,500 into the local economy just in the first year. A sprinkler mandate could mean fewer homes being built, which means fewer jobs created and existing workers laid off. And in the past several years, new construction permits in Bloomington have been dismal, but we are beginning to see those numbers increase. Changing the current policy of allowing optional fire sprinkler installation in 1 and 2 family dwellings would seal Bloomington's fate. New development will go elsewhere since none of our neighboring communities have a sprinkler mandate. Realtors oppose local.
Sorry, you've gone over. Could you wrap up in the next couple seconds, please? Sorry.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we oppose mandate fire sprinklers that negatively impact the affordability. Everybody in this issue has a goal of making the homes safe. We believe consumer choice can do that. So again, thank you to the Board of Appeals and to the City Council for recommending this optional sprinkler installation. And we ask that you support this language. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate your input. Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have Megan Ria. Megan, you are on.
Megan, can you hear us? Megan?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Megan.
Good evening. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. As a member of the Bloomington community, I am asking you to hold a vote on the Welcoming City Ordinance and to vote yes to adopt the ordinance. Hold a vote on to adopt the Welcoming City Ordinance because the Bloomington community needs to know where its leaders stand on one of the most urgent moral issues of our time. Immigrant neighbors, documented or no, often displaced by the meddling of the U.S. federal government in their countries of origin, have built homes, lives, families in our community, often by doing work that we citizens are reluctant to do. Farm labor, cleaning, childcare, deliveries, dishwashing. And in doing these things, they are contributing to a strong community. They enrich our lives with their language, cultures, food, friendships. A vote to adopt the Welcoming City Ordinance is simply a way to demonstrate that you understand your part of the social contract. I invite you to demonstrate your leadership, that you understand how you benefit from the labor of these neighbors, and that you are willing to do your part to do what the voters have elected you to do. Keep us and them safe by adopting a Welcoming Cities Ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have John Reed.
John, are you there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
We can. We can all get you.
All right, good. Jeff, Council, happy Columbus Day. Hope you enjoy it. I'm sorry to see Jen's not here. I'm sure she's celebrating Columbus Day. I'm going to read a passage from a letter that Teddy Roosevelt wrote after the end of World War I. He was the honorary president of the American Defense Society. He read it at an all-American concert. And it goes as follows, quote, "There must be no sagging back in the fight for Americanism merely because the war is over. There are plenty of persons who have already made the assertion that they believe the American people have a short memory and that they intend to revive all the foreign associations which most directly interfere with the complete Americanization of our people. Our principle in the matter should be absolutely simple. In the first place, we should insist that if the immigrant who comes here does, in good faith, become an American and assimilate himself to us, he should be treated on an exact equality with everyone else, for it is an outrage to discriminate against any such man because of creed or birthplace or origin. But this is predicated upon the man's becoming, in fact, an American and nothing but an American. If he tries to keep segregated with men of his own origin and separated from the rest of America, then he isn't doing his part as an American. We have room but for one flag, the American flag, and this excludes the red flag, which symbolizes all wars against liberty and civilization, just as much as it excludes any foreign flag of a nation to which we are hostile. We have room but for one language here, and that is the English language, for we intend to see that the crucible turns our people out as Americans, of American nationality and not as dwellers in a polyglot boarding house, and we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that is loyalty to the American people. Amen." End quote. So, I think you should do away with this welcoming ordinance. If people come here legally, that's great. We'll welcome them with open arms. And Jeff, you should know better being an attorney about the law and legality. Sort of disappointing that you don't. Okay? And Mr. Mayor, the next meeting, we'll discuss some more issues that have to do with you. Because I'm about out of time now. I suggest you don't pass this welcoming ordinance. That is all.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Thanks. Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have Crystal Abel.
Crystal, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you, Crystal. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Crystal Abel, and I have lived in Bloomington Normal my entire life. I'm calling in today because I want to urge the City Council of Bloomington to finally adopt the Welcoming Cities Ordinance that work was started on 3 years ago. When the special meeting for Welcome Cities discussion was canceled by Mayor Renner in July of 2018, it was a punch in the gut for the dozens of people and organizations that worked hundreds of hours on this project with city officials. More than 2 years later, and this ordinance has been brushed under the rug and forgotten about by everyone on the council, it seems, except for Jen Carrillo and Jeff Crable. Today, Councilperson Jeff Crable made a very poignant Facebook post outlining the history of Christopher Columbus and how similar injustices are still happening today. Christopher Columbus has given colonizers a legacy of brutality and genocide that continues to this very day with our criminalization of immigrants and those seeking asylum from conditions and countries that the United States had a hand in creating. I will echo what Councilperson Crable said. We can't change the past, but we don't have to celebrate it. We as a city can't change federal immigration policy, but we can and should protect all residents of Bloomington. That includes a Welcoming Cities ordinance. Immigrants of any status should feel comfortable in reaching out for assistance to the BPD and know that their immigration status will not be disclosed unless mandated or approved by the police chief. Our police chief should be instructed to consider the impact on public safety, the impact to the individual or other affected parties, and the risk that the communication will impact future cooperation by police and the immigrant communities. BPD should create an internal policy to track these situations. A verbal promise, a written policy does not replace an ordinance that outlasts any one police chief, city manager, mayor, or council. The Illinois Trust Act does not do enough. This act, which took effect in August 2010, prohibits detaining on immigration alone, but it does nothing to prohibit racist police officers and sheriff's deputies from detaining immigrants for minor offenses that they might let someone else off on with a warning for after discovering someone's immigration status. The act does nothing to stop law enforcement from communicating with ICE and giving tips on where to find people in our community, destroying families, with the act specifically stating nothing in this section 15 prohibits communications between federal agencies or officials and law enforcement agencies. The Illinois Trust Act does nothing to protect immigrants because we've all seen countless records of police violence and brutality on people of color, our friends and neighbors all over this country, including in Illinois. It does not address institutional and systemic racism that creates bias in law enforcement officers, where it's their own personal judgment being used in determining how they enforce the law and whether those applications are standard practice for everyone they encounter, regardless of race, ethnicity, or immigration status. When the Illinois Trust Act was first envisioned, it was championed as a way to increase trust among immigrants and law enforcement, to encourage them to come out of the shadows and feel confident that they could report crimes against them without fear of being detained. While this act does prohibit this, the act does not prohibit law enforcement officers from putting a target on the backs of these immigrants, from patrolling their neighborhoods, places of employment, or keeping an eye on them with the intention of looking for minor reasons to arrest and detain once they're outed.
Crystal, I'm sorry, can you wrap up in like 2 or 3 seconds?
Yes.
You're well over time, sorry.
The Illinois Trust Act is not enough. We need a Welcoming Cities ordinance, and we need one now. 3 years ago, you failed to step up with the opportunity.
That's going to have to be it. I'm sorry. I apologize, Crystal, but you had already gone over. I just meant you could finish the sentence. Thank you. I apologize, but thank you for your comments, Crystal, and appreciate your involvement. Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have Trayvon Gaffney.
Trayvon, are you there? Trayvon? Hello? You
Hello.
made it.
I'm unmuted.
We can hear you now, Trayvon. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Trayvon Gaffney. I am speaking on the issue of the Welcoming City ordinance. I would like to start with a question. I would like you all to think about what happens when a Latin family cannot report a crime. That's something that hopefully hits home, and it's something that you can identify with. And since we've had a serious conversation about policing in Bloomington Normal, I think it's important for us to really consider the fact that it would be redundant to use any municipal funds to assist a well-funded organization, something that is given plenty of protection by the American government. That by using any of our city funds, again, we would be ineffective. And if speaking to the nature of ineffectiveness, I would like you to consider how ineffective a police officer's job is when they cannot properly attain information about situations that happen in the community. When a family is worried about their status being given up to a different entity, they do not come forward about certain crimes. You cannot expect the community to be able to come forward and be forthright about crimes and things that are happening, something that many other communities have the privilege of, You cannot expect them to be able to do that when they have that fear over their heads. It is inhumane, it is improper, and it is a shame that we should be having to ask for this. Just like it is a shame that we are celebrating Christopher Columbus in 2020. To pass a welcoming city ordinance is the least that we could do to assist even our police in this time where we need everybody to come together. Most important of this, I would like you all to ask yourselves what you would do if you could not report a crime. How that feels when you as a person are not able to go to somebody and report something that has happened to you. I want you to think about the effect that it would have on you and then vote on whether or not we should pass a welcoming city ordinance.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, that is the last of everyone who had registered to speak in public comment today. If I could just read the list of individuals who emailed public comment.
Please do. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal Lewis, David Kobus, Rock Jones, Jacqueline Beyer, Kate Brunk, and Cecilia Long. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Can I just ask real quick? I see Robert Garcia's name in the participants list. Was he not registered to speak?
You are exactly right. I am sorry, Councilmember Matthey. You're exactly right. I've got it. I was just skipping him. I apologize, Mr. Garcia. We have one left. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Madam Clerk. Go ahead. Mr. Garcia, can you hear us? Robert?
Mr. Garcia, you are muted if you're speaking.
Okay, you unmute yourself, please, Robert. Thank you. Robert? Hello? Is he still with us? Connected?
He is still there and connected.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Garcia. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologize. I was unmuted. I'm not sure what happened there, but glad you can hear me now. First, as always, I want to thank the councilmen and women for your service and your leadership. This has been a very rough year, to say the least, and we are appreciative of your service to our community, especially during what has been some difficult, challenging times. Today, I have two issues I wanted to speak in support of, and I hope you can find it in your heart to examine both requests and hopefully get behind and support each one of them. First, I really want to echo very strongly the call for Indigenous Peoples Day to be officially and formally recognized in lieu of Christopher Columbus Day. I think it's important that we start telling the truth. If you are a child of color growing up in this country, while you're growing up, meaning in your most fragile and most formative years as a child, you're constantly bombarded with messaging about how everything was discovered by white people, that everything was founded and created by white men with guns who came here to conquer new land for us. We are fed a whitewashed version of history that paints Columbus as a discoverer and Native people as savages. Now just imagine if you are a Native child being taught this history and learning the truth, and then having your local community celebrate Columbus Day every year. Seeing this propaganda over and over throughout history lessons in our public schools, it can be traumatically scarring for Native children and children of color who are told that white people created everything and people of color have been inferior throughout our history. We cannot keep lying to our children, or we will never learn from history and become a better united people. Dismantling systemic racism within our own community here in Bloomington starts with us telling the truth. Please replace Columbus Day with recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day here in our local community. The second issue that I want to stress and support and hope that you'll support is the call that is being renewed by our community to make the city of Bloomington a welcoming city. I volunteer with many different immigrants' rights and immigrant advocacy organizations, some local, some national. These include the Immigration Project here in our community, as well as FFI, Freedom for Immigrants, ASSP, the Asylum Seeker Sponsorship Project, and the Santa Fe Dreamers Project. I hear firsthand from immigrants that I work with as they tell me, if I do one tiny thing wrong, I have to worry that I will be deported. I will be ripped away from my family, never to see them again. Welcoming city ordinances can be very nuanced policies that enhance and protect the lives of our immigrant community here locally. Now, just a couple of speakers before me, we all heard from a well-known, famous local racist, John, a man who professes that people cannot speak their native language. People like John yell English only at people who only know their native language, like him. Juan John, that's her name. A mí me vale mierda cuál idioma te gusta o no te gusta. Get over yourself, John. This is America. It's a free country. Councilman, councilwoman, if you needed further proof.
You need to like finish your sentence. I'm sorry.
If you needed further proof, we need a welcoming ordinance. John is your proof. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Madam Clerk, we are done. Is that correct?
We are. And again, apologies to Mr. Garcia for skipping him, and thanks, Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Thanks. At this point, we're going to go ahead and move to our consent agenda. Are there any items of the 8A, B, C, D that are listed on the consent agenda any council member would like to have for separate consideration? I'm looking. I don't. Councilmember Matthew.
Thanks, Mayor. I just, I guess for the minutes, I just had a quick amendment or a change to the minutes that I wanted to make. So if you want to do that right now, or if you want to go through the rest of the list.
You want to pull 8A?
Yes, please. That'll work.
Okay, Jamie needs to pull 8A. Okay. Anyone else? Madam Clerk, I'm searching to see, make sure I'm not inaccurate here.
There are no hands up.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. At this point, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of the minutes? So that would be items 8B, C, and D.
I'll
So
make that
moved, Mayor.
motion.
I'll second it then.
Moved by Councilmember Boland, second by Councilmember Craybill. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Matthew,
Yes.
Councilmember Boland,
Yes.
Councilmember Milawambwe,
Yes.
Councilmember Emig,
Yes.
Councilmember Painter,
Yes.
Councilmember Black,
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yes. Sorry, I was on mute.
Councilmember Crable,
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Thank you very much. At this point, we're going to go. Jamie, you had pulled item 8A, so I'm going to turn that over to you, Jamie. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to make a quick amendment to the minutes, or at least the ones that were published to us. I'm not sure if Leslie updated or not, but in section 9A, we were discussing public works updates last time, and it says that I asked a question about sidewalks and curbs on Route 9, and I was actually asking about sidewalks and curbs on Clinton Street, which is Route 150. That's just a small amendment.
Okay.
And with that amendment, I will make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the minutes as amended and seconded by Councilmember Bray. And just for the record, to make it clear, we were just talking about changing Route 9 to Route 150 at Clinton Boulevard. Is that correct, Jamie?
Yes.
Thank you. At this point, if there's not further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll to approve the minutes as presented and then amended? I should say, sorry, as amended, not presented. Thank you.
Got it. Councilmember Matthew,
Yes.
Councilmember Boland,
Yes.
Councilmember Milawambwe,
Yes.
Councilmember Emig,
Yes.
Councilmember Painter,
Yes.
Councilmember Black,
Yes.
Councilmember Crable,
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We move on to our regular agenda on item 9A, consideration of an ordinance amending the Bloomington City Code, including Chapter 10 relating to the adoption of the 2018 editions of the International Code Council Building, Residential Swimming Pool, Mechanical Fire, Fuel Gas, Existing Building, and Energy Conservation, and that's Chapter 15. So, and then Chapter 45. At this point, we have a brief, literally about 5-minute presentation by our city manager and Melissa Hahn. And then we have a fairly brief council discussion. So I'm going to turn it over, first of all, to Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The information that I provided Council as follow-up to the Committee of the Whole meeting on September 16th. We believe that we have something that Council can adopt, but we've also included 2 alternate motions if Council wants to consider those. This is a culmination of 2+ years worth of work, and that's before Council tonight for consideration. I'm going to turn this over to the Economic Community Development Director, Melissa Hahn, and Chris McAllister. Melissa.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight before you, we have for your consideration and action an ordinance amending Chapter 10, Chapter 15, Chapter 34, and Chapter 45 of the City Code as it was presented at the Committee of the Whole on September 21st. That does include it does incorporate the recommendations of the Property Maintenance Review Board as well as the Building Board of Appeals. So the motion as presented does include the deletion of section 1103.5.1 of the 2018 IFC. As City Manager mentioned, there are two alternative motions included in your packet. Those alternative motions include that you include the 1103.5.1 section of the 2018 IFC, or that you include and require installation by January 1, 2024. These alternative motions were also presented at to the Building Board of Appeals, who did recommend the deletion of this section of the code. And that's really all I have for a presentation this evening. As the City Manager mentioned, Chris McAllister, building official, is here for any questions. So I'll turn it back over to you for questions.
Questions then of either Melissa or City Manager or in general, Council. Oh, I see Councilmember Bolin. I think you had your hand up. I apologize for that before.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve alternate motion number 2 as presented.
Okay. Is there before we go into discussion, is there a second to that motion?
A second.
Second by Councilmember Emig. A discussion, I see Councilmember Crable. So we have a motion and a second to approve by Councilmember Bolin, alternative motion number 2. Is that correct, Donna?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Discussion on this. I don't see any hands. Oh, I see. Councilmember Matthew.
I just want to make sure which one is alternative motion number 2.
It's that the ordinance be adopted as presented with the inclusion of section 1103.5.1 of the International Fire Code requiring installation of sprinkler systems in Group A to occupancies where alcoholic beverages are consumed and having an occupancy load of 300 or persons or more by January 1st, 2024. Is that correct? I'm just going to go to the maker of the motion. Councilmember Bolin, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Emig, the seconder. She's not.
Yes.
Okay. Jamie, does that clarify?
It does, but we're in discussion at this point, right?
Correct. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that I'm going to be voting no to this because that's going to put a significant financial burden on some of these organizations. You know, right now, of the 13 locations that are going to be affected by this, we're talking about fraternal organizations like Knights of Columbus and the VFW and, possibly the Moose and stuff. And, a lot of these organizations, we're going to be asking them to effectively have to come up with installation of sprinkler systems. Yeah, we're going to give them 3 years, but we're talking, somewhere between $30,000 and $70,000. I got a bid 5 years ago to install a sprinkler system in a 9,000 square foot building, and that bid was for $70,000 5 years ago. So I realize that we're doing this for public safety, and I get that, but I don't know a better solution right now, but that's a burden that I don't think a lot of these organizations are going to be able to deal with. And especially as they're nonprofit organizations that do good works in the city, I'd like to see us come up with a different plan before we impose that burden on them of cost sharing or something else. But this is going to be painful for them in a very real and serious way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Matthew. I'm going to go, I have two people's hands up. I'm going to go to, I don't know what order it was, but I'm going to go to the maker of the motion, Councilmember Bolin. You have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, in the packet, what made me make this motion was that in the packet, apparently there are tax credits available for these businesses with a large percentage if you do it in the first or second year. and the percentage goes down as time goes down. And when I think about owning a home and I know that a roof only lasts 20 years, I'm going to start setting money aside for large maintenance costs. So I think that it's appropriate to have a company do that in an establishment that has 300 people drinking alcohol and a fire starts. I have heard in the news so many times of many deaths, and I just don't want that to happen in Bloomington.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Councilmember Boland. Thank you. Councilmember Craybill, I see your hand up as well.
Thank you. Three things I wanted to address. First would be the amendment with regard to sprinklers. I have to agree with Alderwoman Boland. We had a email from our fire chief outlining the safety benefits to having a sprinkler system in these establishments, we also, I think, consider the fact that we do have establishments, as was discussed at the last meeting, that have installed sprinkler systems. So there's a bit of fairness there for those that don't have it. And I think giving businesses 3 years to comply is the ability to grants and that type of thing. I think that's something that we should do for safety reasons. Secondly, Melissa, I appreciate you answering the questions for me that I had on both the gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms as well as the energy conservation code. And I'm not quite sure I understand. So if you could, as for gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms, public accommodations, restaurants, bars, whatever, we do have a state law that requires single occupancy restrooms to be identified as all gender and designated for use by no more than one person at a time. And so with that being said, how is that going to be enforced, or how is that being enforced in Bloomington? And does the revised code, plumbing code, impact that?
Thank you. Melissa?
Yeah, I'm actually going to turn it over to Alistair so he can answer that for you.
Melissa, we can't hear you, honey. We can't hear you, Melissa.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we can't hear you. I don't know what's up there, Melissa. We can't hear you.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. In terms of enforcement for the gender neutral signage, as a matter of practice, we would look for accessibility signage during our final inspections for both new construction and renovations. So we would not retroactively go in and enforce this additional signage requirement on the existing businesses if we don't have another reason to be in there to look at it, I guess. So we do not enforce retroactively. We would look at it as a part of any final inspection for new building permits.
Okay.
Could you repeat your second question there, sir?
The second question would be on the International Energy Conservation Code, and the 2021 code has a lot of additions with regard to making things more green, basically. And in looking at the state one of the state websites, it indicates that the latest published edition of that code would apply. And so I'm wondering, once the 2021 code is published, will that, in essence, under Illinois law, then apply to Bloomington to enforce?
The short answer is yes. Yeah, I guess the short answer is yes, it would.
Okay.
I guess a little bit of a longer answer is I don't know that the state necessarily adopts it from day one from publication either. They often perform their own tweaks to the code as well. It actually provides for the modifications that Illinois does to the code. In the past, those changes have not been significant from what the international code requires, but they do make some small tweaks. But the answer is yes, they would be applicable to the city of Bloomington.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. We're well over time, but if these are quick, I'll go with them. I may need to ask for an extension. Councilmember Emig and then Matthew.
Yes, I'll be quick. I just want to second the comments made by my colleagues, Councilwoman Bolin and Council Member I'm sorry, Craybill. You're all in front of me on Zoom. And I was just really heartened by Chief Moore's argument. I understand that this is challenging for businesses, but we have, it does seem as if there are mechanisms for offsetting expenses. And in the end, this is so proven to be an enormously successful way of preventing death and mayhem when these fires can get out of control, that I really appreciate that we're trying to see a way towards creating a system that can help our community. And I think passing this is the impetus to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Emig. Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out that grants are only as good as the funding mechanism behind the grants. And if you actually win a grant, and that, tax credits are much the same thing, that they require a significant amount of money put up front before the tax credit can ever be, used or utilized. When it comes to budgeting, any good business would do so for expenses that they knew about, such as a roof. But, these businesses, why would they have ever budgeted for something that they didn't actually know was going to happen? So, our own planning group, our commission, actually voted to not put this in there. And I'm not arguing the safety issues of any of this. I completely agree that, that there are benefits to this, but there are significant hardships to this as well. And I hate to see them downplayed like this. So thank you.
Thank you, Member. Councilmember Black, is your comment quick or do I need a motion to extend?
I'll make a motion to extend for 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
All right, 10 minutes.
No!
10 minutes.
Okay, 30 seconds. Okay. Actually, go ahead. Say what you want to say. And if somebody wants to respond, go ahead. Just, you probably.
Yeah, I guess I'm just having a hard time understanding this. So if this motion were to fail, I suspect it would go back to alternative motion 1, correct?
We would go back to whatever motion the council seeks to make.
Right, and I could be wrong here, but if this fails, alternative motion 1 is basically like you got to catch up and get those sprinklers installed right away, right?
Well, is that maybe not quite? But I'm sorry, Melissa.
The recommended motion would actually be that this section's left out, though.
Right.
Okay. I want to clarify that. So okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll on the motion that has been made? That was made by Councilmember Bolin and seconded by Councilmember Emig.
Councilmember Matthew?
No.
Councilmember Bolin?
Yes.
Councilmember Milawambwe?
Yes.
Councilmember Emig?
Yes.
Councilmember Painter?
Yes.
Councilmember Black?
Yes.
Councilmember Craybill?
Yes.
Councilmember Gray?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Motion carries, and thank you everyone for your input and work on this. We're going to move to item, 9B, consideration and action on resolutions commit financial support and administration of funds to construct the Constitution Trail Southeast extension from Lafayette Street to Hamilton Road project. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our city manager, who I think will turn that over to our city engineer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This actually is pretty exciting, where it combines two major projects that are a part of the master bicycle plan that we've got in the community. And Kevin, I see you. Give me a thumbs up if I'm going to you or am I going to Craig? All right, I'm going to go to Public Works Director Kevin Kofi. Kevin?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Like Mr. Gleason said, we're very excited. This is a tremendous opportunity that, the Constitution Trail master plans and the bike master plan all point to this as a great opportunity to be able to connect up to a project that we're going to be doing with the Hamilton Fund of Commerce. And so I am excited tonight to introduce to you our new city engineer, who's been on the job for several months now, but Craig Schonkweiler has done a tremendous amount of work kind of putting together the background information here and this opportunity for this ITEP grant. And so he's going to be doing the presentation. I'm going to get it going here for him. And let's share the screen and then we'll get this presentation going. Okay, Craig, I'm turning it over to you.
Good evening. As Kevin mentioned, we're looking to apply for what's called an ITEP grant for the extension of the Constitution Trail from Lafayette Street to Hamilton Road. So what is ITEP? ITEP is an Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program grant that is administered by the Illinois Department of Transportation. It basically provides alternative sources of funding for walking, biking, and trail projects. The call for proposals went out in August 21st, and it's due November 2nd of this year. ITEP is a reimbursable grant program, which means that the city would front the money for the project, and then the reimbursement would be sought from the DOT. ITEP is a competitive type of grant where there is an application score that is determined based upon merits. Later, I'll show you the estimated score that city staff has developed. It basically, there's a sliding scale that accounts for the community size, the property tax base, and the median income. The project that we're looking to apply for is the extension of the Constitution Trail. It runs from Lafayette Street down along Easy Street on a previously city purchased right-of-way, under Veterans Parkway, paralleling the railroad track down to Bunn Street, and then heads due south to Hamilton Road. Upon completion, this path would connect down to the Hamilton Road extension, which is the project that we have planned up here in the next year or so. Of note, to the north between Lincoln and Lafayette, there's a gap piece there that we would look to fund separately with local funds. The reason for that is there are some obstacles there that we feel is probably best handled with a local project versus going through a lot of the stringent requirements that are associated with this grant. Upon completion, this project would connect downtown Bloomington to areas in the southeast portion of the city, particularly the Hilltop Mobile Home Park and the commercial areas to the east when the Hamilton Road extension is built. Of note, there are no pedestrian or bicycle facilities in that region, so Veterans Parkway certainly serves as a barrier for folks to head south or north through that area. I also want to mention that ITEP is a transportation enhancement grant, which means it's not a recreational grant, and as such, time of day restrictions projects are not allowed. Upon completion, as Mr. Gleason had noted, that this project would address two high priority projects that were listed within the bicycle master plan. Of note, those are projects that have been vetted out previously through updates in the master plan through public involvement. Within that master plan, the section from Bunn down to Hamilton was indicated to have paved shoulders. We are actually looking at a separated facility. I'll show you folks pictures of that. We feel a separated facility would probably be best with the industrial traffic in that area and use of available space. This is an overall view of where the project location is. You can see it here in the bubble. As we can tell, it connects up a gap piece and helps folks get under Veterans Parkway. The comprehensive plan mentions safe and efficient off-road bicycle trails. And this project would fall exactly within those goals of the comprehensive plan. The community-based score is based upon census tract data, and we have calculated up a score of about 58.5. The minimum score would be a 52. These tracts account for about 22,000 population with a medium household income of about $40,000 to $90,000, depending upon the tract. Now I'll show you some pictures here. We're looking at Lafayette. All these pictures will be facing south. So we can kind of follow through where the path would be. The city has right of way here to the right along the substation, right in this grass area here. This would be where the trail would be planned to be, kind of snaking through this maze of poles. We do feel that it can fit through there safely and with some modifications to a few guy wires. Now we're coming to the end of Easy Street. Easy Street here comes along and dead ends. In the middle ground here is the Veterans Parkway Bridge and embankment. So the trail would come across in Easy Street and then head due south. This is the Veterans Parkway Bridge. There are unused spans that the DOT has. There is also a fiber line that runs on the north side of Veterans Parkway that we plan to make application to tap into that line so that we can possibly use public safety measures such as security cameras underneath the bridge here. Also, we plan to include roadway lighting or street lighting, pedestrian scale lighting, so that this area, which is fairly remote, can feel safer for folks traveling through here. Here's another picture of the unused span. And then this would be an IDOT bridge, so we would have to have an intergovernmental agreement with the DOT for the path under the I-55 corridor. Here's another view of that span. This project would give us an opportunity to clean up this area to provide safe passage for folks. So now we're on the other side of Veterans Parkway. This is within city right of way here. The railroad is on the other side of the brush line here, so the path would come along right along through here. Now we would head due south with Bunn Street, and the path at this location with this house, which is within the county, it's not annexed within the city, would have to be studied. There's a possibility the path could go into the front of the home. We would have to acquire an easement. There's a possibility that we would go around the home or have discussions with the property owner about what challenges the home presents. Sometimes in these cases, there are negotiations that occur that work out for both parties. What I want to stress to council is that there will be a phase 1 study, and at that time, we would know what exactly would be recommended as far as the path routing, but we do have some challenges at this location. On the south side of that previously identified home, now we're near the mobile home park. So the path would be in this kind of zone here, just to the west of the power poles. As I mentioned, Bunn, it's a fairly high industrial area on the east side of the street. A lot of truck traffic. We feel it's probably best to separate the path when possible for safety reasons. The path would then be in this zone through here. We'd trim the trees. Of note, Benward has a force main through here. We would look to place the path on top of that force main in encumbered land. You can see here that Bunn Street's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. And then here is Hamilton Road. Now, Hamilton Road, the plan would be to reconstruct Hamilton and Bunn intersection with about 440-foot reconstruction on the north leg of Bunn and Hamilton, and then provide basically the platform for this path to sit within that zone. So basically, that's all I have. Turn it over to questions.
Questions from council members? Let me see. Okay, whoops. First, we're going to start, well, they're just listed in the order that I have them. Councilmember Bolin, Craybill, and Matthew. Donna.
Well, the first question is, you said that the money that we get from the state comes after we build everything. And does that mean it's not guaranteed that we will get it?
So what we do is we apply for the grant. If we are selected, then we would enter into a joint agreement with the DOT. At that point, the funding is locked in.
Okay.
The reimbursement part comes where the city would have to front the money, and then we would ask for reimbursement as we go along, as our expenses are incurred.
Okay. And could you explain how that number 58 affects the eligibility for the grant?
So the local match is dependent upon that number, basically. So the higher that score, it's possible that the local match gets reduced down to even 0%.
Okay.
So when we make our application, we're assuming worst case at 20% of eligible items. Some items are not eligible, or they may be determined to be not eligible through the grant application process. But we're at this point locking in on the 20%.
So just for clarity, the number 58 is actually to the benefit of Bloomington?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds good. I did have other questions, but after you explained with all those pictures, I no longer have those questions. So thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Donna. Councilmember Craybill and Matthew.
Yeah, thank you. Good presentation. I actually watched the Transportation Commission and same presentation. I'm going to vote yes for this, but I do have a concern about the cost. I know in the packet materials, our local match could be up to, I think, $342,000. And when we're talking about the impacts of COVID, and we're not quite sure what they are, I think we need to consider that. But I had emailed my question to Tim, and Billy had a really good response. Once the state approves this, we'll get our final number on what the local match will be, and then we'll have an opportunity to approve it, and we can determine at that point what our financial position is then. So based on that, I'll be voting in favor of it.
Thank you, Jeff. That sounded like very conservative. I just had to be silly. Councilmember Matthew.
Well, actually, Jeff just accidentally answered my question. So thanks, Jeff. I was going to ask for clarification on the process, and it sounds like what I just heard was we apply now. If we get accepted, then and everybody comes back to us and says, here's the rate we're going to be funded at. Here's what our actual costs as the city of Bloomington look like they would be. What do you want to do at that point? That's what I think I just heard. So Yeah, and I go down Bunn all the time to get to Bloomington Meats down there, and there already are a significant number of bicyclists that use Bunn to get out into the countryside south of town. It's one of the few routes to get outside of the Veterans Parkway Loop. And you're right about the cement trucks and the recycling trucks and everything else that use that stretch. So I'm not sure that I would be riding on Bunn Street right now, but bless those intrepid bicyclers who are willing to do it right now. So I'm very happy about the fact that we're talking about a path that's away from the road that would be safer for everybody. So thank you for putting this together, and thanks for the pictures clarifying where things were going, because like Donna, I was having a hard time visualizing how we were going to get from Easy Street over to the Bunn Street area, and your presentation answered that great. Thank you.
Thank you. We're well out of time, but Councilmember Bolin, you have your hand up. I'm going to go to you. Go ahead. Oh, Donna, you're muted. I'm sorry.
Sorry. There's one more positive thing I have to say, and that is that there is a Constitution Trail that ends right there at Bunn. It's like the Constitution Trail to nowhere. So hooking up with this new section, you could actually at least make a loop from somewhere. So I'm happy with that. Oh, and I also saw the public art on the graffiti on the Veterans Parkway thing.
Thank you for pointing that out, Donna. At this point, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion made by Councilmember Matthew. Is there a second? Councilmember Bolin, second. At this point, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Matthew.
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin.
Yes.
Councilmember Milawambwe.
Yes.
Councilmember Emig.
Yes.
Councilmember Painter.
Yes.
Councilmember Black.
Yes.
Councilmember Crable.
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Motion carried. No names to announce, Madam Clerk. We're going to go to item 9C, and there's no recommendation here, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to City Manager Gleason, and then we have a brief presentation and a brief council questions if necessary. Tim.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There are no recommended updates to the emergency ordinance.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Gleason at this point? Okay. Seeing none, Mr. Gleason, I'm going to turn it over to you, City Manager's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Phil, if you would give me the first slide, please. I think it's new hires for the city. All right, I'm going to add lib. One of the other items that I was going to talk about is census is going through October 31st. Please get out there and complete the census. It is so critical for our community. We're also messaging what the Halloween events are. You can find that on the website. I think we've had a couple of press releases for the things that the city is affiliated with throughout the community. Just ask and think that the parents get this already, but cannot stress enough how important it is to socially distance and be safe if you do choose to go out and trick or treat. All right, the first slide, we have 5 new hires to the community. We have Police Officer Ronald Fryman, another Police Officer William Shelton. We have a laborer, Matthew Johnson. We have Greg Cook, Operations Manager for Public Works. That replaced Ben Ryburn. And for the life of me, I cannot see the last one. Sherry Pride is somebody that we hired at Finance, and she's actually actually working at the hub, and good addition to the city. So welcome to the city, all 5 of these new city employees. And then the other slides, honestly, I think I covered them already. We have downtown farmers market that runs through October 31st as well. That is 7:30 to 12 o'clock. We're down the home stretch for that. And given COVID, I think we've had a pretty successful farmers market for this season. So nice job to all the participants and to Melissa Hahn and her team. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Tim. And actually, as under the mayor's remarks, the first thing I just wanted to say is to give a great thank you. And we do it from time to time, but I just wanted to make an overt thank you to our city manager, Melissa Hahn, our clerk, other staff members for all the fantastic things that they do for us to make things happen on a daily basis. You know, I'm going to give you a clap, round of applause. Thank you all so much. You're fantastic. It's so much easier, frankly, to be mayor than it was almost 8 years ago. And it's thanks to all of you and your dedication and how fantastic all of you are. I mean, there's not a weak link in the chain. So thank you. I also just want to, the only other thing that I want to say is that we are really ticked off that Councilmember Black has decided to have his own damn life. I mean, it's like when my kids got in their 20s, I was really ticked off. The nerve of you. But he's leaving us. Don't feel guilty, Scott. Don't feel guilty. But we did set up through Friday to have applications. I had not received too many as of a week ago, and given the press release that Nora Dukowitz had sent out and the follow-up that we've had, there are at this point a dozen and growing numbers of people that are responding. I am trying to vet them as I get them and talk to people as they come through. My intention would be, the deadline, is this Friday for a formal expression of interest. I'm touching base with council members and others who are recommending people. And I would like to have a recommendation to the council sometime next week. But I don't know how many people I'll need to vet. So that my goal is next week. I will not make a recommendation any later than 2 weeks from today, but I'm hoping for next week. That's all I have. Thank you all so much. And Scott, we're going to miss you. But in spite of the fact that you insist on having your own life, with
Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome. Even though that's obviously a warm, scratchy, fuzzy. But Councilmember Craybill and Matthew, I see your hands up. Others that want to give aldermanic comments, please feel free. But I'm going to start with Councilmember Craybill and then Matthew, because that's how you're listed on my screen. Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to shout out and thank, as always, Tim, Billy, Melissa Hahn, Chief Scott, and Jay Tesloff, Russ Waller. They all answered questions I had on the agenda. So that's always very much appreciated. My next town hall is going to be Thursday, October 22nd at 6 o'clock. The Zoom invite is on my Facebook page, Jeff Crable, Bloomington City Council. You can also email me at jcrable@citybloom.org if you don't use Facebook, and I can send you the Zoom invite. I just want to quickly comment on O'Neill Pool. So I know the cost of that is pretty high for the architects, but I reviewed the letter of proposed agreement from William Architects, and we're getting a lot for that amount of money. We've got a group that's very experienced in building municipal or designing municipal pools. They have in their community input, and I think we should try to get as much community input as we can on this, reaching out to neighbors of the pool. And then also, I think we could reach out to people that have had memberships at the pool, and I think the city has that information. The west side of Bloomington has been ignored for too long. And one of the things that when I was running, one of the things that people said to me when I talked to them was that, even though we live on the east side, every part of the city is important, and we want the west side to improve, and if the west side improves, we all improve. So I'm glad that we're putting forth this amount of investment into the west side, into that pool. So that's all I had.
Thank you, Jeff. Amen, brother. That's good. At this point, Councilmember it's starting to shift. Councilmember Milawambwe, Bolin, and Painter, in that order.
Sorry, that was my fault. I just took Councilmember Matthews' hand down.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Milawambwe, Bolin, and Painter.
Well, just a very quick question. This is for the very youthful Councilmember Black. Is this your last meeting or next one?
No, good question. I tendered my official resignation to Billy, who didn't want to take the letter. He tried, but I was able to give it to him. My last official day on City Council will be October 31st.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. So
you got me for 2 more meetings.
Yes, because I was already going to start shedding tears, but I have a couple more weeks. So.
That's right.
I suggest start with guilt. Let the tears end at the very end, because we know how it all ends. But
right.
Thank you, Mavoka. Okay. Merci beaucoup, monsieur. Donna. Councilmember Bolin, sorry.
Yeah, I would like you to possibly ask some of the applicants that are applying for the Ward 7 position if they would like to reach out to any of the council members to discuss what it's like to be a council person before
we don't want to scare them off. I got like a dozen or so applicants. You're going to scare them off, Donna?
No. I mean,
I know.
I think it would be a good idea, and
absolutely.
I'm not that scary. And the other thing I like to say is that I recommend that people get their flu shot, because nobody wants to have COVID and flu at the same time. So they are free, and you can just walk in. They're free. If you have an insurance card, you can submit it. If you have any kind of underlying health condition, talk to a physician beforehand. But if you're basically healthy, you can just walk in and get it.
And amen to that too, Donna. Okay. Thank you so much. Councilmember Painter, and then Matthew.
Thank you. I just wanted to make you all aware that I put triage cards in all of the council members' mailboxes, describing briefly what the triage center is. It's now operating full steam ahead, and it's a great thing for our community, especially during this time of COVID when people are having mental health issues. They have worked with the police, providing a different alternative to going to jail when people are having breakdowns, and it's a great thing. And I just wanted you all to be aware of how our sales tax dollars are at work for mental health in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Painter. That's once again, everybody's saying great things that we all need to be aware of. And thank you for all your help and service on the boards that you're on. But thank you, Councilmember Painter. Last but not least, as I could see this, Councilmember Matthew. Jamie, you're muted. Jamie.
Thanks. Sorry, it was my turn apparently. No, I was gonna say, in regards to filling Scott's seat, I think what you were trying to say to Donna is that you wanted to set the hook first before you let the fish get away. So
right.
Yeah. No, what I wanted to say is I wanted to give a shout out to Public Works for the free fall bulk pickup that's happening right now. It started last week. Got a bunch of compliments from the folks that live in the South Hill neighborhood about how fast everything went this week. They did South Hill, and I think they did Sodim last week as well. And then this week is Dimmitt's Grove and a bunch of other parts around the city as well. So big shout out to those crew. Just a reminder that, take a look at the map on the city website, and hopefully you haven't missed your opportunity to put stuff out there for the free fall pickup as well. And then the other thing is just a reminder that it's the census. You can do it at census2020.gov. And it took like 5 minutes. It was super fast to log on, go through, verify who lived in your house, and some rough ages. It did not ask any sensitive questions. It was super fast in 5 minutes, and I was done. So, and it does make a big difference to schools. It does make a big difference to the city, and it makes a big difference to a lot of the nonprofits that we have in how they get funding allocated from both the state and the federal government. So please, please, please take 5 minutes for the rest of the community to go to census2020.gov and fill that out. That was a good.
Thank you, Alderman Matthew. Thank you so much. And I just want to reiterate that absolutely. I mean, it matters so much for the next decade, the decisions we make, other governmental institutions make, grant funding, all kinds of things, where we allocate resources for schools and other public needs. It's just absolutely critical to know where people are. And it's by law, anything that might be, even if you think it might be sensitive, it cannot be released on an individual basis. It's against the law. And so thank you, Councilmember Matthew, for demonstrating and reiterating these points. At this juncture, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilmember Matthew, second by Councilmember Bolin with her fingers like floating. Thank you so much. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
I appreciate everything.
Thanks, Scott.
Second to last council.